Welcome to Thomas's Comparison Driving Lounge, and here with the all-new S-Class S500 we go to the sports mode. A little bit complicated to pick it while driving, and we go from 40 kilometers an hour to whatever. Let's see, let's go. That's 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour, and wow, extremely silent here at high speed. That is a noise level that other cars would have at half the speed. Incredible. Still quite stable in the sports mode. The air suspension is also a little bit stiffer, so I have more control, and the rear axle steering is going the rear axle in a parallel direction in the front wheels to give more stability. And here also when we do lane change at higher speeds, it doesn't shake up too much. Still, the typical flying S-Class feeling is still present. Now, hard on the brakes, you feel the weight of the car and definitely feel it's not sitting too low. Everything's stressed on comfort. And here at the normal speeds, let's take it at 80 kilometers an hour, like 50 miles an hour, this feels like nothing. Going back to the comfort mode here, you don't have to press on the screen. You can use the lower control mechanism right here, and so silent here. This is really amazing. And hey Mercedes. Hey Mercedes.
How can I help?
Start the wave massage.
I'm starting the wave massage for you.
Thank you, Mercedes.
You're welcome.
Whoa, didn't expect that. Thank you again. Interesting. That was very well programmed. Here in the tunnel you can see the ambient lighting, which is really top of the segment. There is one vehicle that is even better than this one here. It's the Mercedes EQS, the electric S-Class, so to speak. And you will find a full review of that on Autogefühl soon when we launch this video. And when you watch this video here just a couple of days later, then it's already online. And you can check out the EQS full driving review here on Autogefühl. This looks so amazing. And of course I picked the Thomas blue color right here. So this engine here, in this case an inline 6-cylinder, is doing a fairly good job. It's not the most emotional engine, so let's say the BMW inline 6-cylinder, for example, feels way more emotional, and I'm really looking forward to the comparison of the Porsche. But coming back to the ride of the S-Class, it's such a phenomenal ride once again. It's so comfortable, the suspension is really flying up there on the road. It's just an awesome experience, really. In the sport mode, it does get a little bit sportier, but the sport in itself can probably only be reached by the true AMG version here of the S-Class, not necessarily the AMG line. The true AMG version of an S-Class, if you watch this video at launch, will be available later on, and we'll also keep you updated of that in our channel. And then let's have one more acceleration in the sports mode from 90 kilometers an hour when we're already at speed. 150, 180, and up to 100 kilometers an hour once again. Sports mode again giving me a little bit more feedback. And here in the high-speed corner lane change, yeah, you feel the weight of the car indeed. Interesting that it has the feature here that it pumps up the outside bolsters of the seats each. So when I do a right turn, it pumps up the left bolsters to keep me better in the seat. Of course, you're also on the animal skin surface, you slide around a little bit more. And once again, the noise insulation of this vehicle is just phenomenal. That's really amazing. And wow, such effortless driving at higher speeds here with the S-Class. That's something about it. It has, yeah, probably the best noise insulation overall on the market. And one of the reasons is that they already apply dampening material to the raw chassis. Considering, the rear axle steering does a great job in making this car more agile. It's probably the best technology feature reduce the turning circle, and gives you so much more agility, especially at low speeds. The threshold where it changes is 60 kilometers an hour, or yeah, that's should be about 30-35 miles an hour. So there it changes from opposite direction steering from the rear axle into parallel steering then for more stability at higher speeds. And here up the hill, still very decent how the drive is and so comfortable even when there are some bumps. Definitely again not the sporty Focus. We're looking forward to the AMG version, the true AMG version of the new S-Class. We're keeping you updated with that. And also now looking really forward to the comparison with the Panemera. Slow, so here we go. But the car feels really, really smooth. So yes, I talked a lot about that the user interface is worse than in the previous generation. I stick with that. But the driving has even more improved. So hardware-wise, chassis-wise, driving dynamics-wise, another step forward if you compare it then here, the old with the new generation S-Class. Now the Porsche Panamera 4S executive long wheelbase version. So equal amount of horsepower, but let's see how that one goes. Sports Plus mode, you already hear this is a different kind of mode. Exhaust, and let's go. Up 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour, and that exhaust was really way louder, but also the wind noise is way louder here at the same speed. So definitely as for noise insulation, the S-Class is way ahead, but the Porsche feels sportier and more engaging. The suspension, although it's an air suspension here as well, way stiffer, way lower. The vehicle have more contact to the ground. This now feels like being on the racetrack, whereas the S-Class keeps up the comfort also while driving fast. This one's so much more engaging. It's completely different feeling. Now hard on the brakes. I could really imagine like driving it directly on the racetrack. That's the thing. This car is already or still racetrack proof, whereas the S-Class is really, way distancing itself from that. Normal driving mode, then the air suspension does a softer job actually. But in general also you feel you're sitting lower in the vehicle, the seats are way stiffer. That's a minus point because I think the seat ergonomics are way worse here in the Porsche. So although this is supposed to be one of the most comfortable Porsches, I don't think they did a good job on the seat ergonomics. The Porsche Cayenne is to me the most comfortable Porsche. You have a very good seating position there, upright, and also seat ergonomics is good. The Panamera, not really. And here you can also see there's massive difference in ambient lighting. That's where the S-Class is ahead. You see it more there in the down area and so on. So especially at night, the S-Class is just more spectacular and fancy. The fancy factor definitely plays for the S-Class. The sportiness factor here plays for the Porsche. And steering, by the way, is a little bit more precise, crisper. But if you compare this one here with other Porsche model steerings, you still have to, steer more here in the Panamera. So they also set kind of an emphasis of more comfortably running straight, which is okay again for this model here. And now we're here with quite a good amount of speed here in the corner, and where the S-Class felt really heavy, this one also doesn't feel light, but just when you have this precise steering, it feels more racy alike, and that's a good feeling. So you feel that you would be more in control of this vehicle here than with the S-Class. And once again, here I do have fun in the corner, sporty driving car. Rear axis steering is also built in this one. It doesn't go as far, in the degree like with the Mercedes S-Class, but still is notable. But with the S-Class, it's definitely more notable. So yeah, after high-speed driving this one here, this really pumps some adrenaline, whereas the S-Class always holds the adrenaline low. That is so interesting, especially when driving the very, very same length, weight, horsepower, the very same track, I'll call it that way now. This is so interesting. I always wanted to do this comparison, and people really think about these two vehicles here, and we've seen it. There are so many different factors where the cars are comparable, so even more interesting that the driving is really where they differ the very most. Yes. Awesome. Accelerating out of the corner with the rear wheel biased all-wheel drive, rear axle steering. Yeah, this is one of the most fun luxury sedans, even here in the executive version. With the shorter wheelbase, it does feel more agile and is of course more racetrack ready. But still here with the long wheelbase, it's a lot of fun to drive. So, if driving fun is the thing for you, then the Panamera is ahead. If more the comfort is something for you, then the S-Class is ahead. So, Sport Plus mode, then from 80 kilometers an hour, high speed. Wow, how well this car behaves here at higher speed in the corner. How settled it is on the road. That's truly amazing. Wow, what a high-speed performance. That's just marvelous. But again, you hear that's way louder in here. The question again is, what is more important to you? If anyone will drive these speeds here, oh, you see how bumpy it gets relatively in comparison to the S-Class. So both air suspension, but so completely different settings that the Porsche is more like bop, 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 bop in the sports mode. And the S-Class, when you drive over some waves with the S-Class, it's more like so yeah, this is so interesting to experience these differences here between these two vehicles. Here going back to the normal mode, keeping it a little bit calmer while we pass these workers there, the side and these two houses. And then when we can go a little bit louder and more agile again, once again back Sports Plus mode. This shift is everything, the whole characteristic of the car towards sportiness, and here we can really play out the differences. This is where the Porsche is so much more agile than the S-Class. Definitely this becomes obvious. But again, you also lose the long-term comfort, so it's really a trade-off. The comparison between these two vehicles is a trade-off, but that's also what's making it so interesting, because they have so much in common, on the paper, but then they're so different, especially in the driving part. This has been so interesting, but now the big question is, which one would you take home and which one would I take home? I'm starting to make up my mind, but I think the outcome won't be as expected. Tell me in the comments, have you already made up your mind? Which one is your favorite? Mercedes or Porsche? Did I say oder? Yeah, some German moments of me. Why not? Then, which one would I take home? Exterior-wise, I prefer the Porsche. It just has the more streamlined look, especially here in this Panamera generation. The second one, the first one didn't like that much. The second one even more. Interior-wise, I think the S-Class is just more sensual, especially at night with this great ambient lighting. That looks really amazing. However, user interface, I do prefer the Porsche. It's just easier to control. I think the Mercedes is just over-engineered on the interior. Driving-wise, it's clearly the Porsche. It has more driving dynamics. Even when I go with the sports mode here in the air suspension, we'll see later on if it's different with the true AMG version of the S-Class. But the Porsche Panamera is just more fun in driving. However, you lose comfort, but not necessarily because of the suspension. You could live with that. But the seating ergonomics is way better with the Mercedes S-Class. So, and my verdict for today is, if the seats would be more comfortable, I would take the Panamera. Is what I directly said shortly after being tempted by the Porsche Panamera driving experience in this sporty way. However, now, after 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles in the new S-Class and experiencing all the luxury features and especially driving it at night here also coming up in a very special single video, then I really made up my mind and I just can say, S-class it is.